starting now. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm sharing my screen first, and then we will get into the overview. All right, so you guys can see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Alpha.
And I'm going to just hide this for now and put it in
Oh, Mr.
presentation.
Parker was telling me about this.
Okay. All right, so staff up introduction. So as I mentioned, what we're going to cover today is an overview of the Staff Up app, and
Mm-hmm.
then we're going to go into a live demo. So I'm going to do a live demo of the app itself. I'm going to look at the customer view, the staffing company view, and the worker view, so you can have each one of those. Then I'm also going to look at the web portal for the customer and then also for the staffing company. And let's just talk about, and then I'm also going to allow you to have some time for questions as well. And the goal is trying to get this within an hour session. All right, so let's talk about Staff Up. The whole idea about the Staff Up app was to provide an end-to-end labor request solution because we want to be able to address the needs of the customer, the staffing company, and the worker all in one. And as I mentioned, we did our final release a few weeks ago for the latest version, which is great because it has a lot of wonderful features, and we're rolling it out to different staffing companies. So it gives you, from the customer's perspective, it allows them to create projects. And with those projects, they could create jobs. And we'll get into the detail as far as defining what a project is and what a job is. Then the staffing companies, they can get requests coming in to say if they're interested in doing a job. And from there, they could submit a proposal. And then from the worker's perspective, they will be able to manage their what jobs they have on their calendar and then also putting in their time. So it has all these wonderful features.
Oh, really? This.
So let's look at the first screen that you get to. So once you download the app for Staff Up, you're going to have the option to choose whether you are a customer, a staffing company, or a worker.
Okay.
And when you guys register, you'll register as a staffing company. And when you register, then you'll be able to provide information in your profile. So here's an example of looking at a customer's list of options. So for a customer, they'll have an option for my projects, job status, adding a job, creating, updating their profile, and then also logging out. And let's say we want to create a project. What I would define a project as a big undertaking. So let's just say that's a big effort. Here's an example. We're doing a house building. That would be a great example of a project. You're having building a house, and you're going to have a lot of people who are going to be participating in getting that house built. So you're going to have an electrician, you're going to have a plumber, you're going to have somebody to do the framing, you're going to have somebody to do the flooring, all these different people. So all of those activities represent the jobs. So the project is the house build, and then the jobs are the other activities that make up the house build. So when you, as a customer, I would go under my projects and then I would create a project. So here's an example where we created a project warehouse inventory. So you put in the information for the project, meaning the text, you click add, and then now you have a project created. Once you create a project, now you can go ahead and add additional jobs. So within your screen, you'll see an area that says jobs. So if you select jobs, then that allows you to create your jobs. And here's an example where a job was driveway concrete. And then it's going to ask you what level, what skill level are you looking for? So here we say it's advanced. You put your start and your end date, and then you also put the location information. So once you fill out that form for a job, then you have the option to go ahead and select who are the contractors or staffing companies do you want to be reaching out for this job? So, who do you want to send this job out to? You have an option to mark all of the staffing companies, and keep in mind these are companies that are within a region, within a radius of you. So you could select all of the staffing companies that come up on the list, or if there's a staffing company that you want to work with specifically, you could choose to select only that one. And that means that job will only get sent to that one particular staffing company. So once you make your selection, then you could click send. What will happen next is that staffing company will get notified about this job that's come through. So they'll get their notification on their app to say, "Oh, a job has been submitted." And this will give them the opportunity to go ahead and go into the app and say, "Yes, I'm interested in this job," or "No, I can't fill this job right now." So once they make that selection and they say, "Yes, I'm interested in the job," then they could go ahead and put in information about the proposal. So this is their best opportunity to say, "Here are the people who will work on the job, and here's how much I'm asking for the job." Now, the option is either putting in a rate, so it's a rate, meaning an hourly rate per person, or it could be a cost for the whole entire job. So right here in this example, we're showing it's an hourly rate, which means it's $25 for each person per hour. So once they put in their proposal and then they select apply, that's when the job goes back to the customer to say, "Oh, here are the people who provided proposals for the job." And in the list, you see that it was 24 hours per person selected. Now, maybe the customer has a question for the staffing company and wants to send a message. Well, we have this great feature called chat. It allows you to send messages back and forth to the company, staffing company, to ask questions or get more information. Once the customer is really happy with the proposal and has no further question, then they can choose to approve it. And once they approve the proposal, that's when the work gets in the queue to begin. So they click on hire, and now it's up to the worker to have this on their calendar and to begin doing the work. So as you can see here, this red dots represent jobs that the worker is assigned to. And this is also where they can keep track of where they have to go, who's their contact person. And when they get there, they have to click clock in, and then when they're done, they have to clock out. So this is a great way to capture how much time a worker has spent on a job. And if it is an hourly rate, then this is able to calculate the total cost that has to be paid. So once the worker completes the job at the end of the week on Fridays is when the timesheets are processed and the invoices get sent out. So it's up to the customer to approve the timesheets that they receive. And once they approve it, they could then get the invoices and process the invoice as well. And all that's available to get done within the app. But also, not just on the app,
It's more.
we also have we also have this handy web portal. So some of these things that we just walked through are also available on the portal. The key things that are available are for the customer side and the staffing company side. The worker is only on the app.
Mhm.
So that gives you an overview. And what when we do our actual demo, I'm going to go through each one of these sections so that way I can show you what it looks like and then I can answer questions. So before we go into the demo, I want to pause for questions.
I don't have any questions yet. Neither do I.
Okay, so what are your thoughts so far? Are you excited about Staff Up?
Okay, yeah, it's streamlined. It's nice. Now with staff up, okay, so what we doing is for the customer and the workers.
What you're probably going to do, actually, it might be for both because on the staffing company side, you are able to create a job on behalf of a customer. So there could be customers that you have that are not yet on Staff Up, but you will have access to create a job on their behalf.
Okay, so when we go in and create the job, so I seen where you had sent it to the customer
Hmm.
and instead of sending it to the worker.
Oh,
Correct.
you're talking about, so anything that has to be approved
Okay.
will go through the customer, if
Okay.
that's
Now,
what you're
what you
asking.
saying as approved? Like, if a customer called and said he want 5 people tomorrow,
Hmm.
and then so we'll go in there and set it up, the customer and all that, and then we send him the names of the people.
Yeah, so let's actually show you. Let's go through and show you.
Okay.
So there's two ways we can do it. I have the mobile app, and then I also have the web. Which one do you guys want to look at first? Which one do you think you'll be using the most? Put it that way. You think you'll be on the mobile app, or you think you'll be on the website and setting things up there?
Um. Now we download the mobile app on our computers or on our phone.
On your phone. So the mobile
Okay.
app is on your phone. So that would be, you would manage it on your phone.
Okay.
Otherwise you could be on a computer, any computer, and be able to manage it that way.
Yeah,
So what
computer probably. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the computer. That way you can have more experience with that. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to look at a screen for the how you start. Okay, so take a look at
And
here.
all the workers got to have a phone in order to get the
Yes,
They'll have,
exactly.
they'll actually have to all download this app.
on their phone.
Yes, they will have to download the app because that's how we track the time.
Okay.
So the website that you would go to is mystaffup.com.
Okay.
And from mystaffup.com, that's where you'll get to the Staff Up portal. So if I click up on the Staff Up portal, it will ask for a phone number, which is the phone number attributed to the staffing company. And then you'll have a passcode as well. Now, here I am. This is the actual staffing company. So this is the view that you guys would typically see
Okay.
as a staffing company. And I'm going to go through each part of the screen.
Okay.
The
Okay.
first, what was that?
Okay. Now, I used to work for a company called Labor Ready. I worked for them for 12 years.
Uh-huh.
We had a app. It was called the mobile app,
Mm-hmm.
and what we had, everybody had to have a phone. We had to set them up on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get the customer involved into it. The customer had to do it because what they did was they would download. They would have their tickets and they could put their hours in
Mm-hmm.
from the app. Is this is something like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, on the app side. And
Okay.
I could show you that on the app as well.
Now, what if the customer don't want to do it? They want to just keep doing like they've been doing.
Well, we've created it where if the customer is saying that they don't want to register on Staff Up, then you could still have the customer in here on their behalf.
Okay.
So you're managing it on behalf of the customer.
Okay. Okay.
So that was one of the latest features that we added in here, allowing you, if a project or a customer doesn't already exist, then you can still manage something on behalf of them.
Now, will the customer say if we got a customer Sims and Lomas, and they come here and pick up the workers to go do to unload the truck, and what the customer would do would send a thing to us stating how many people they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Then the person would they would have to go to their phone. We'll text out the information, and then they go to their phone. If they want the job, they would click on it and say they wanted the job.
So I see what you're saying. You're saying that the workers get to confirm if they want the job.
Yeah.
The difference here is because the staffing company is working closely with the workers, it's the staffing company that when that proposal, remember I showed you the screen where the staffing company gets that proposal,
Yes.
that's their opportunity to talk to the workers that they want to say,
Okay.
hey, Joe and John and Sarah, do you guys want to do this job? And they say, yeah. Okay. And then that's when the staffing company says, okay, those three said yes. So I could select them for this job and send it to the customer.
Okay.
Does
All
that
right.
make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So on this dashboard, the first thing you see is it's just data for the month. So The month right now is April, which just started. There's no invoices for April, no workers for April. But if you were over the course of the month and you did have something in, you would have a value.
Okay.
Here, remember I mentioned that the timesheets are automatically processed and invoices are created on at 5 p.m. on Friday. So that's something, just a reminder to let you know that that's when it happens. And what you see down here would be for you guys, all of the different people who have time, who put in time. And you can see the details about their time. You can see if it's approved or if it's unapproved. So here's one that's been approved. So I'll just look at the approved one real quick.
Okay.
So this one shows me that this person, Gary, he clocked in at one time and clocked out at another time. And then this is how long he was at his job. This is the address he was in, and this is the address he clocked out. So it gives me all the details. So I know exactly where Gary was. Now, here's one that's not approved. So if I look at the detail here, I could see, okay, this is the same information, clock in, clock out. But then if I go back, I have the option. Let's say there was a mistake made. I could edit it.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So he meant to clock in at 5, but he clocked in at a different time. So I could change it.
Oh, okay.
See that? So as long as it's unapproved, then you can go ahead and you can make changes.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So
All
this
right.
gives you all that information so you could see who are the people that clocked in and clocked out.
And they
So
got,
that so that's the dashboard.
okay.
Next thing we're going to move on to is jobs.
Okay.
Now, remember when I told you that you could create a job on behalf of a customer?
Not
So
being in there.
so here's where we could do add a job. So here's where we could go ahead and create a project. So let's say the customer is not in the staff up, but we need to create a project. So we would go ahead and create a project on their behalf. We would create so let's select the project, and then we could create whatever the job is. Same thing as if I was a customer, I'd fill in all this information on their behalf along with the number of workers, and then I would save it. So now you have a job that has been created on behalf of the customer. Now, here are jobs that have workers. So if I go ahead and take a look at the show, I could see that here's the detail about the job. Here is the number of workers. And am I interested in filling it or if I'm not interested?
Okay.
So if I'm like, oh, here's a job that came in, I'm interested. So I'm going to click on interested. So now that it's interested, you see it gives me a note to say the response has been submitted. So now I have to go into proposal to see the information. So in proposal, then you could see all the detail as far as, filling in what the job is. And let me just click on here real quick. So you could see all the information about proposals. And then if I need to add workers to a job, this is where I would go ahead and add workers. And then I would also put in my rate. So when I go to job, I'm just making sure you get this clearly. Jobs is where all of the new requests come in. Once you make that selection that you want to go forward and provide a proposal, so that means you're interested, click the button. And under proposal is where you would go ahead and fill in the detail, saying here are the people who I'm selecting to do the job. So I'm going to select Gary and I'm going to select this person. And it says 3 workers, so I got to select 3. And then it says hourly rate, and I put in the hourly rate. So I put in whatever the hourly rate is, and then I press save. Okay, so that's how you do it with the proposal. And then from there, the customer has to go ahead and approve it if it was created by the customer.
So the customers, they're gonna create them. They're gonna create it and send it to us looking for workers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's how it would
That
work.
work. Okay.
And then the my proposal, so these are jobs that you've already applied to and that you have already gotten approved. So these are the ones that, yes, you got the job. You didn't just propose it, but you got it. So it has all the details about what your proposal was. So this one was a total cost job, and I had 2 people working on it. Okay.
Mhm.
Does that make sense so far?
Mhm.
All right. So we just looked at dashboards, we looked at jobs, proposal, my proposal, and now let's look at invoice.
Mhm.
So we also looked at timesheet because that was part of the dashboard section. So timesheet comes through, like I said, at the end of the week, that Friday it gets processed. Here you can see that there's some timesheets that are unpaid and then timesheets that are paid. When it's unpaid, that means that the customer did not approve the timesheet. But when it's paid, that means the customer did approve the timesheet.
And by that being their signature, and they go into this and approve it.
Yes.
Okay.
So when we look at right now, this is still the staffing company view. When
Oh,
we look at the customer view, we could see where it says approved timesheet. So this is the staffing company view. They're seeing all the lists of timesheets that they sent to all the customers that they worked with, and they could see which ones have been paid, which ones have not been paid. So if I look at a detail of the paid ones, I could see everything I need. So I could see what the invoice information was, who the customer was that it was, because there could be different customers you might
mhm.
work with
Mhm. We do.
and different projects as well. I could see that it was paid, how many hours, what was in the invoice, all the details that I need, and then even the workers. So I see all the information I need for this invoice.
Mhm.
Now, one thing to note, the payment portion is outside of the app. So if they send whether it's a check or electronic or whatever, whenever they send, they meaning the customer, send that information, that's when they will probably count it as paid.
Mhm.
So they'll update it to reflect paid. And then if I look at one that's just not paid, you could still see the same information. But listen, you could make changes to it. So look at this worker list. I can make changes to it. So maybe this is an example of an invoice where it wasn't Gary, it was somebody else who actually did it.
Mhm.
So I could change the worker.
Okay.
Or maybe there is a case where the invoice, maybe the time was off. I could always edit it. See that? So what we're allowing you to do is make changes before it gets approved.
Okay. Now, say we giving a customer um, a 2% discount.
Okay.
So where will we put that in the details?
What will happen is when you do your proposal, that's when you're providing the amount.
Okay.
So if you're doing a 2% discount, I would think in the communication of the job, like that chat, you could either say, oh, and I'm offering you a 2%
Okay.
discount
Okay.
or some other communication.
Okay.
And then that reflects in the amount.
Okay. Cool.
But if it's a discount, if they pay within that amount of time,
Within the 7 days.
then we wouldn't know if they were going to pay it on time if we went ahead and just gave them the discount ahead of time.
Yeah, it's not built for that. So
Okay.
if you're trying to give a discount outside of what was in the proposal, then it's not paid to apply or address
Okay.
that. But I mean, when they actually make the payment, if there's some kind of agreement that you guys have outside of this, then you know, if the payment's supposed to be less, then they could deduct it from what they send you.
Because sometimes Mr. Parker give them a 2% discount if they pay their invoice within 7 days.
Hmm.
So I go into QuickBook and I do that. I do the invoices. So I put in a little slot. They got a little slot down there where you put 2%
Hmm.
or $16 off or whatever, and then it gives you. Some of our customers you can't charge them tax either. I
Hmm.
got 2 customers that don't charge tax. They don't get
Hmm.
tax.
Hmm. So I mean, that's again, that's a scenario where you would have this type of invoice, but then you might have a different invoice.
Okay.
Basically, what you would say is tell them, okay, this is the invoice for the system, but you're really going to pay the invoice we sent you, which is the discount.
Okay.
And then this one here, download, is it just gives you the invoice in a PDF version. So in case you need to send the invoice to someone else, just
Yes.
for reference, you could
Yes.
click the button and it's PDF.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, any questions on the invoice?
Nope. I do the invoices, so no.
Okay,
Nope.
good.
Nope. Mhm.
All right, so next let's look at the worker screen. And this is helpful because this is where you can add workers.
Okay.
you could click the add worker button, and that's where you put in the worker information. So you have the name, email ID is actually the email address.
Uh-huh.
You'll put their address, you'll put
The
all
customer.
the information you need, the state, and if you want to include any additional attachments, whether it's an image or it's a
Huh.
certification, you could
Image.
do that.
Yeah.
So that's where you can do that
Oh,
information. And then if you ever need to edit it, you can click edit.
okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, let's see. The next thing is calendar.
Calendar.
Calendar is helpful because you might want to know over a period of time. Let's look on the calendar back in February to April. I'm going to check what kind of activity happened over that period of time.
Mhm.
So that's where you could see, oh, wow, I had somebody who was working here. I had somebody who's working here. And if I click on this link right here, I could see the detail. I could see that I had 57% of my workforce that was occupied on that day.
Mhm.
And I could click on it and see the detail. Oh, I had two people doing house building project.
Mhm.
And if I click it on the bottom one, I could say, oh, and I had another two people doing some other house building
Mhm.
activity on the same day. So it just gives you information about what was taking place.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me put in, and then you see how I just clicked on the date.
Mhm.
This is another way you could see details.
Mhm.
So here again, I could see what happened. There was a job and it had these workers and it started at this time. So that gives me a good view of what's taking place at whatever point of time.
Mhm.
Okay, questions so far?
No, it's pretty neat.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure you tell Troy that. All right, and then the other area that I want to show you is called settings. This is where we have the information set up for your company. So the staffing company would have the name, would have the company name, it would have the contact number, which is related to the login number. And then here you can select the image that you want to use. So maybe it would be your logo. So if you're
Mhm.
using this
That's
for
good.
your innovative labor, you put your logo in there.
Mhm.
And then select the payment. So this is where you have the option to say for your invoices, if you want them to be after 10 days, 20 days, or 30 days. So basically payment within that period. So
And I have one that say 3 days. So I
that's
just
not, yeah, that's not an option here.
oh, I couldn't type it in. I did.
Either 7.
Yeah, that
Oh,
those are not options that
okay.
we have. Yeah.
I none of them up there. We got 3, 7, and 14 days.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe what we can note, and I'll take a note about that.
Mhm.
As you guys look and play around with this more, please share your thoughts and suggestions for improvement. And then what I'll note is what we could do for another phase. So you just mentioned additional uh, options
Mhm.
for invoice.
Invoices, yes. 3 days, 7 days, and 14 days.
And then I'll put an other,
Okay.
because there could be some people who say within one day,
We
you know.
wish we need
Right.
that. Mhm.
So we want to make sure that all of that is captured.
Yes.
Now, you guys have seen everything for the staffing company view. Do you have questions at this point?
No.
No, I mean it is really cool. I see
Hmm.
I'm not really in the camera. But it is really cool. It's really nice. The only problem I think is that a lot of people that we work with don't have phones or know how to use apps. Um, I mean, but then again, what I also thought was if we get some really good, solid workers, we
Hmm.
can contact those people. We might probably get those people to download this app.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then you could do a training as well to show them, because as I mentioned, the worker part is pretty straightforward. It's not much for them to do except for look at the calendar and clock in and clock out.
Right.
The other work is more on the staffing company side and then on the customer side, which they're used to administrative activities.
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and move on to the customer side so you could see that. And it's going to look pretty similar to what I just showed you.
Okay.
So let's see. I should have it open here. Okay, look at that. We just popped into the customer view.
Okay.
So same thing. If I go into the staff right here, staffup.com, go into the portal. Difference is I will use the customer. Let me move this around here. I will use the customer login. So as I mentioned, for each phone, you have a login, which is the phone number.
Mhm.
So it's either that phone number is either tied to like the staffing company, the worker, or the customer. So now this number is tied to the customer.
Okay.
And this should look familiar. See that? You see the
Right.
invoices.
Yeah.
Same view. And then
Mhm.
here you see timesheets. Again, these are timesheets tied back to work that was done for this customer.
Right.
And this customer has to go about approving the timesheet.
Mhm.
So if they go in here, you see they got the approval button. Staffing company did not have approval button.
Mhm.
Staffing company had edit button, but not approval.
Mhm.
So they'll look through and say, oh, yeah, oh, I remember Gary was selected for doing this job. And yep, that looks right. I could see that he worked this many hours at these addresses. So
Mhm.
I click approve.
Mhm.
So that's what they would do. So they would go through and then approve. And then here's an example of one that was already approved. And as you see, there's no more approve button because it was already approved.
Right.
All right, so that's the dashboard. And then let's click on my project. This one looks similar to what I showed you under staffing company. Um, this is where if a customer has a new project, they could click on project, add project, and then type in what is the project that they're doing. They would put the name of their project. And once they do that, they can go ahead and create jobs. So
Mhm.
for example, this project is called Bird Feeder. It was created, on this date. Now, if I click on this link, I can see all the jobs associated with that. So the project is bird feeder. Here's all the jobs associated with it. I could choose to do each job by an hourly rate or by a whole amount.
Mhm.
And then the status says if the person was hired, so a proposal comes in. If it says hire, then it was a person who was actually hired to do the job. So I could click show to give me the details. So this should look familiar because it shows you what was the job information, how many people, and then what was the proposal that was provided. And this person was hired to do the job. Okay. So I'm going to go back. And then if I have to make edits to the project, then I can do that. Okay. And same with the job. If I have to make edits to the job, I could do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we just looked at my projects. We just looked at jobs. And then here's some job status information. So this is looking at all of the jobs. It's looking at the hire status. It's looking at, again, here, the job details and who's doing it. So basically, it's not just giving it to you by project. It's just giving you all of the jobs that have been created and what the status is. Okay. So in case you don't want to have to go through each project to see each job, this is a view that shows you everything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then here we are under invoices. So you see we have some invoices that are paid, and
Mhm.
then there's one that's not paid. So when you click on the details of pay, you can see all of the information just like it looks the same as it did under the staffing company. Now, if we look at the one that's unpaid, then we notice that, uh-oh, you have a reject button and then you have an approve button. That's
Ah.
It's so
that
simple.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, so that's where the customer gets to choose whether they're going to reject it or they're going to approve it.
Mhm. Or if
And
they're just gonna
and
sit on it forever.
yep, and then remember the staffing company can change if they have to make a change to the invoice before it gets approved. but it's the customer that gets to approve it.
Got it.
Okay. Now, staff members, this is a scenario where you have a customer, let's say they're a big company, and they have other people who are helping to manage the work for their project, for their company. So they can go ahead and add new people. So if I want to add more people to be able to do project management or billing. So project management is basically creating projects, creating jobs. Billing is doing invoicing, meaning approving or rejecting the invoices. But maybe somebody has both. So then they could select both. So this is just giving additional resources the opportunity to help support the customer view. Okay, so that's the customer. And then settings. Again, this is something that should be pretty familiar. So with settings, you have the information like the name, the company, and then you could put an image or logo or different attachments that you want. So that is the information for you guys on the customer behalf.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm bad with the camera, but okay. Thank you.
Can you, okay, did that, was that clear? Do you have questions at this point?
No, I like how you let us see from the customer's point of view too, because that gives us some idea that if something like why isn't the invoice paid, or we know how his screen looks now, so
Yep.
that's
Yep.
cool.
Exactly. All right, so now we have about 15 minutes left. I want to show you all the worker perspective in the app, and then we're going to quickly go through the app screens from both the customer perspective and the staffing company perspective, okay?
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to pull up my app and we'll walk through it. All right, so here I have the Staff Up app. First thing I'm going to do is put in the number of the worker. So here's the worker. His name is Gary. So we're going to look at what Gary is up to. All right, so let's look back and see what kind of activity Gary's been doing. All right, so it's possible it might have been cleaned out since we just updated the version. But here's what Gary would see. Gary would see their profile. So here's their information about where they live, the image, their phone number, and then they can edit if they need to. All right, so that's their profile. And then at the bottom, you'll see, can you guys see my screen real good? Make
Yeah.
sure you can see. Okay. So then I see work schedule. So that's where they could see if there was work activity, they'd see those red dots. So if they were scheduled to do work, they would see, oh, this is 2020. Yeah, if they were scheduled to do work, they'd see the red dots. And then they would see the detail about the job as well. And once they went to the job, that's when they're supposed to do the clock in. So if I go over to worker clock in, that's when they would go to clock in, and you see that clock in button, they press that button and it starts a timer. When they're done with the work for the day, or maybe they went to lunch and then they came back. So when you go to lunch, you could clock out.
Okay.
And then when you come back, you could clock back in.
That's good.
Because it tracks all that time. So once they're done, they click the clock out, and then all of that gets part of their timesheet. And over here under worker timesheet, that's where they could see what the timesheet looks like, which would be basically the total work they did for that day. Okay. So those are the four main areas. So as I mentioned, schedule shows you what you have for the course of the period. Maybe you have a job to do on Saturday, Sunday, but then you don't have anything on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Work time sheet is basically the summary of your timesheet for a period as well. So this is looking at what your total timesheet was based off of April, based off of a day, single day. And then this is where on the third button, that's where you do the clock in and clock out. So when you get to the job, you clock in. When you leave, you clock out. And even if you're on a lunch break, you could clock out and then clock back in. And then, of course, there's the profile. This is just information about the worker. And
They'll
then you,
like that. They'll like being able to see their hours.
yep. So, so that is just the overview of the worker's perspective.
Okay, that's cool.
Now,
Seems simple enough.
yeah, so simple. So now I'm going to go ahead and log out, and I'm going to log in as the customer. So keep in mind, I'm the customer, the one who creates the projects, creates the jobs, and does approval. You see this, that message that came up? That's what would happen for the person who that phone number is associated with. So that's their verification code that comes in. So you would put in that verification code, and then it would open up the information. So here, just like we saw in the web view, it has my projects, which are projects that I've created. It has job status, which are the jobs that I have sent out, and I get to approve them for people who provide me proposals. You have add jobs if I want to add a job to a project. And then again, you got your profile and an easy way to log out. So let's start with my project. Here we have, just like we had in the web view, a list of all the projects that are already created. And then I could click the plus button if I want to create any more. So if I don't want to create any more, then that's fine. I don't have to. But if I do, I'll go ahead and create one called tree repair. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm going to create it. I'm adding that. Project successfully added. All right. Now, if I want to look at a job that's associated with it or create a job, at the middle is where I would go ahead and select jobs and then click on plus sign to add a job. Now, under add a job, this is where I could do either a hourly or listen. Or look, I have a button to say I want it to be a total cost. So maybe I don't want it to be a $15 an hour job. Maybe for that tree repair, I want it to be $1,000. So that's when I would change it. So my job title, so again, the project is tree repair. So maybe I need somebody to do, let's say, um, sawing and cutting. And cutting. So that's the job as part of the tree repair. And I want it to be a total cost. So give me a proposal for the total cost to do my sawing and cutting. I think I needed advanced skill level, advanced, and then I need someone, give the description. I have an oak tree. Oak tree needs to be cut. Okay, and then when do I want them to start? So let's say I want them to start, maybe I want them to start, let's see. I'll have them start on Monday, and then I'll have them, I want it to be done by over a course of a couple days. So then you can put a start time. Again, this is the customer putting this information in, and then they put in an end time. Now, the next question says, do I want to know who are the people that are going to do the job? Do I care to know their names? Some people do want to know who the people are who's actually going to do the work. But in other cases, they might say, no, I really don't need to know who's doing the work. I just want to know how much it's going to cost. So if we say, nope, don't show worker, all I want to do is know it's going to be two people doing the job, and the contact you need to work with, I'll just say it's going to be Tim Green is the contact that you need to work with, and Tim's phone numbers is this, and then his address is this, Will Street, and he lives in, let's say, Dayton, Ohio. So he lives in Dayton, Ohio, and he's the contact. Uh, and then save. So that's, I just created a job. See that? Adding job, and it was successful. So that shows you how it gets created. And like I said, as the staffing company, you can also create a job on behalf of a customer. So now that I created the job, I need to choose who is going to be the staffing company. I could choose everybody, or I could just choose one that I really know is going to be doing the work. So I'm just going to choose one. So now I want this job to go to that person. As a customer, I'm done. I'm done with this effort. I created my project, I created a job. Now I could look at my job status to see where things are. So this is a house build, all these different house builds. So these are jobs that I've already hired. If I ever want to check on these, I could just click on one and I could see invoice details, because these are jobs that have already been done. So I could see details about it when I click on it. So this one says the invoice was paid. It tells me the time that was put into it, and who the staffing company was. So it gives me all the information I need to track it. So that's job status. But if I go back to, let me go back to the jobs here. This is where I put in the request. So right now I'm waiting for people to apply. At this moment, there's no applicants. So I'm going to go back and show you what I did again. So you guys caught that. I went to my jobs. I went to selected it. Make sure the button. Okay, there you go. I selected my project, which is tree repair. I clicked done. It takes me to this screen, which is now allowing me to say, based off of this project, I could see the invoice information associated with it. I could see timesheets associated with it. I could also see who applied, which is the jobs. This is the middle button. And that's where I'm waiting to get applicants. Do you guys follow that?
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
sorry. There's been people coming in and out the office, but I'm with you.
Okay. So I wanted to make, because now we're going to do the other part where we're the actual company. Let me see. I'm going to log out. So if I click log out, now I'm going to log in as the staffing company. And I'm going to put in my proposal for that job. So here I go. I'm the staffing company. The first screen it's showing me now is here are some proposals. Let's see. Under jobs, remember I told you jobs is where you can look to see what are the latest ones that come through. As you see, the top of the list is the ones we just created, sawing and cutting. Then there's some other ones that have come in that we have not responded to. So I clicked on jobs, and now I'm going to say I'm interested. Because I marked that I'm interested, now it says I have to create a proposal. So I click OK, and I have to go to proposal screen. You notice that in my job screen, that job is no longer there anymore. Okay, because I've already replied. I already replied saying I'm interested. So that means I have to go under proposal to start working on my proposal. So I click on the job information and I say, they want 2 workers. I know this worker's available and I know this worker is available.
Who's that?
Now, remember when we were the customer, we said we don't care about the names of who the people are. We just want to know how much it is and that two people could fill the job. So when we go back to the customer screen, we'll notice that their names will not appear. So just keep that in mind. Okay. So
Mhm.
now when we click on enter total cost for job, that's when we could say, I think $1,000 would be good. So I'm going to charge $1,000 to do the work that they want. I'll click apply and then we'll see what happens. So now our proposal has already been sent to the customer. So if we go back to the customer, and I'm logging out because I'm going to be the customer again. So I'm going to be the customer again, and I'm going to see what proposal came in. Oh, here we go. I'm getting all these great notifications. Now, if I go into my jobs, oh, I got to remember, you always have to choose a project because it doesn't know what job you have unless you select the project. So I'm choosing tree repair. Okay, now it sees that I'm a tree repair project. So now if I look under job, look at that. Did you notice how before it said no applicants? Now it says list of applicants
Mhm.
because somebody replied. That staffing company that I selected, they replied. So now if I click the button, I could see they put in a proposal of $1,000. And if you notice these stars are what we give staffing companies and workers. So this company is rated 4 stars. So that means they've been good to us. They've been a good group of people. And that helps when you're trying to, as a customer, trying to figure out who you want to work with. You might want to know what is the rating for that staffing company. One thing I'm going to show you guys real quick is let me just go back and click on the, you see that? You see the messaging? I just clicked on the chat to show you what it looks like.
Huh.
Hi, I like your proposal. I'm just putting a silly message just to show you how you could send a message to the company when it comes to you're communicating or you might have questions. So the customer could send a message to the staffing company regarding this job. Staffing company could send a message to the customer using that chat feature. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if I go ahead and select the button, you see how it says two workers. It doesn't give me the worker names. It just says two workers. And that's because as the customer, I said, I don't care what their names are. I just want to know two people could do the work.
Mhm.
And it tells me that this staffing company is going to charge $1,000. And I'm like, oh, that works for me. As a customer, I will now hire them. So you click the hire button and then it gets them hired successfully. Ta-da.
Okay.
So now it says up applicants hired. Remember it had that other list. It said applicant list. Now it says applicants hired.
Mhm.
So you now have somebody who is hired. And now that is on your job status list. So remember the job status shows you the hired jobs.
Yeah.
So you could track the information of the hired jobs.
So it all came back together.
Yep,
Came around.
that's right. And then from there, because we hired those workers, now we should see those workers on the let me see if I could go back into those workers so you could see what they see on their timesheet or on their schedule. I'm gonna go into the web view as the staffing company, and then we should be able to see who are the workers associated with this job. So my proposals. So here we go. My proposal tree repair. And I see Gary's on there and I see this other company on there. So if I go to Gary's information, or if I even look at the calendar, look at that. You see how all of a sudden I see all of these occupied spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that song and cutting. It's right on our calendar. So it gives you a great view of what's happening. And then if I go into Gary, so I'm going to log into him and see what's on his view. All right, so we're getting it. Oh, look at Gary. He got a full schedule going on. See that? So
Mm-hmm.
now we can see all the information about Gary has a Tim Green. We talked about Tim earlier. Okay, oak tree needs to be cut. Here's the contact if there's questions. Here's the phone number for Tim if they need to reach out. And here's the address to go. So all this information is on Gary's schedule. And then once he does his time, like we said, it'll show up here. So it's not going to show up until he actually does the work and then the clocks in and clocks out. And then here's where he would clock in and clock out. But it's not April 5th yet. It's April 2nd. So no jobs found. Okay. So we just did a pretty much a full circle of what all we had to do, all the parts. I'm going to pause it right here because I know we want to wrap up soon and just see one more time what kind of questions you all have.
Miss Pat, you got any questions? I don't I mean, I think it's very well rounded. Like you just said, you can get from it all works together. It all flows how it's supposed to be, and how you showed us from different point of views. We can yeah, it looks fluid, is what I'm saying.
Now,
Good, good.
how soon can we start this?
Now it's ready. All you have to do is download the app,
Mm-hmm.
and you do need to talk to Troy to see what phone number is going to be the primary number for the staff up.
Okay.
So, so I'm gonna stop recording at this time, so that way we could get ready to wrap up. But are there any other questions before I stop?
I have a little idea about it because like I said, I did it before.
Uh-huh.
It's a little it's kind of different, but we'll see. This one might be even easier than the one that I have done before. So.